Hello everybody. It's June here. It's still a bit chilly. I'm out in the orchard and I just wanted to say a couple of things I want to talk about in more depth. One of them, I was watching Zdogg and Dr. Prasad on Zdogg's podcast on YouTube talking about the COVID thing. And I was watching Bret Weinstein also talking to another guy who's really into off-label drugs about it. And I just have to continually reiterate that I hope people can learn how to go to primary sources and read and study themselves. And if it's too complicated to understand, you know, that particular domain of expertise or science or whatever, that you consult experts in that domain who are good communicators and can help make the information digestible to you, instead of relying on other bloggers and armchair dark web intellectuals with Ph.D s, no matter how bright and brilliant and sincere they are and worshipped they are by their fans. They're subject to the same biases and cherry picking and logical fallacies and ideological influences, cultural influences, as you or I are. So it's hard, I know, because these subjects are complex and we don't like to read. And maybe it's way over our heads, but it can be done. And it's good to audit several sources to try to get things straight, because there's so much noise, everything's so confusing. So that brings me to the culture thing. I'm fortunate in my life to have lived in many countries and experienced many cultures, and I think that's a blessing. I was thinking, where am I going to go and retire or live, you know, as things seem to be rapidly changing. And I wanted to have some control over where I was sitting when the music stopped. So I chose my place and my culture. And sometimes I look back at other cultures I've been enmeshed in and think to myself, do I want to live in a culture where I think I'm secure if I have an AR-15 and a sidearm and a knife when I go to the grocery store, you know? When the drive-by shooters come and I can pull out a gun and shoot back and hit innocent bystanders just because I'm not all that in a gunfight? I don't know. And where I am now is high trust, very safe. People are down to earth. They're happy with what they have. They're more concerned about their relationships than material things. It's the kind of culture that I like and I want to adopt and be a part of. And I eschew those cultures that are so dramatic and so dependent on fantasies of violence and so on. There's so many layers to it. And obviously, whatever country you live in, you can create your own culture if you have the good sense and the intelligence and the sovereignty and the agency and the community to do so. And you can choose cultures within the broader culture that make more sense to you. It's not that I'm putting everyone in one basket. I'm just saying, being surrounded by that anxiety and these fantasies of violence and control and power and so on, greed and lust and wanting for so much and never being happy with what you have, medicalizing everything, you know, including a little bit of anxiety or a little bit of depression now and again, or a little bit of nervousness or whatever. It just isn't where I want to be. I want to be somewhere where I can relax and enjoy the fruits of my labor and enjoy breathing and feeling good in my body, like I've said before. And I want people to critically assess the culture that you're part and parcel of and think about whether or not you have the agency or the ability or the freedom or the intelligence to either improve your culture or change, go to another culture. if you want to, you know. I've lived in many countries, I've experienced many cultures, I've enjoyed them all. At the end of the day, I want to live in a high trust culture where people still care about each other, where we live. Hello again, folks. Sorry about what happened down in the orchard. The movement behind me confused the autofocus. The Lumix cameras don't have the best autofocus. If you use it properly, it works pretty good. But I was unable to get the focus place, drawn over my body. And so when the exposure changed and it got darker, it started seeing the background. So I was in and out of focus. No fun. You get the focus wrong or not so good, but you have the audio, you're happy because at least people can hear what you're saying. But it's not ideal, right? So anyway, I just don't think having that pall of innate violence and lore of violence and people around you who really feel more secure if they have a gun is the best place for me to be. So I chose to be somewhere where people don't think they need a gun. So it's important in a culture. It's good to be in a culture where people still have trust and maintain trust and believe that trust is a good thing. There's so many elements to a culture, right? It's a long conversation. It's not just about trust or whatever, but that's a big thing. And when I look back at some countries, I think to myself, wow, they're almost purposefully eroding trust in their community, in their culture, and that's a very dangerous thing to do. I really think that the way things are going in the States, for example, is a perfect precursor state to a fascist movement taking hold. I can't go into that subject because that's even more involved than what I want to say about culture. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. I'm happy to be in a place where people don't feel like they need guns and where people still trust each other. That's the bottom line. William T. out.